Welcome back to the 2015 European LCS Spring Split. I am joined by Ducky, coach of ROCCAT, as they're getting ready for their battle against the Unicorns of Love. Something that I've asked every other coach when they're standing next to me is what they do. But you're a returning coach to the LCS this year. So I'd like to know from you, how has the league evolved or changed, in your opinion, with the inclusion and the recognition of coaches?
For me, everything changed. Like, coaching in 2014 was very frustrating, at least for me. Outside of the top-tier teams, coaches weren't really recognized, the salary was non-existent, and it was mainly something you do because you love it. Like, it was a full-time job, but it was hardly paid for. And with the rule change, I don't know, like, everything changed for me. Like, it became an actual career option, you could do it full-time, and I don't know, I'm just really excited about it.
Well, it sounds absolutely fantastic. ROCCAT is on the up and up. It's a team with a lot of expectation. And coming into the split, maybe the nerves got the better of the team. How have you helped them evolve over the weeks and now that they've picked up some wins?
I think with ROCCAT, something to understand is that it was mainly an offline issue. Like, online, we performed like amazing. Like, we never had any gameplay issues whatsoever. So for us right now, from the start, the problem has been to show the same kind of performance offline. And right now, week for week, we're getting like rid of the jitters, we're getting rid of all the problems we have. And I think by going towards playoffs, we can show what ROCCAT actually is capable of.
Well, I know you like to talk, and I know you can answer difficult questions. So this one's a little bit more obscure. ROCCAT have obviously lost Xaxis in the top lane. You've got Overpower moving up and Nukeduck in middle. So my question to you, when you look at the 5 players with Woolite as well in there, what defines ROCCAT as a team, as their coach?
It is a difficult question. I think from the games that we've shown so far, I would say for now it's like the ability to come back. I'm just going to take the Elements and Fnatic game as an example. Against Fnatic, which is like clearly one of the best teams in Europe right now, we were over 7,000 gold behind. But we ended up closing that, at least like we reduced it to 1,500, and never in the game you could really say like, we lost that game. Against Elements, we fell behind by like after 10 minutes, arguably the game was over. Like, I mean, we made such a grave mistake. But in the end, both games went over 50 minutes. And I think it just showed that if the enemies, like, they give us something, then we take it. Like, you can never count ROCCAT out of the game.
Yeah, that's definitely been the case. Just one quick thought before we move on with the show. Where do you see your team going in the coming weeks?
Well, I expect to win pretty much everything in the upcoming weeks. I have for myself the expectation of ROCCAT ending either first or second. And like, ROCCAT is an amazing team. Right now, unfortunately, we haven't been able to showcase what we're really capable of. But with the upcoming weeks and us getting rid of our problems, we will definitely show that we're a top-tier team, able to beat everybody.
Well, best of luck in your endeavor. Thank you very much for a fantastic interview. You may join your team for picks and bans. Now, as we head over to the analyst desk, we are going to hear in from Nukeduck as he talks about the pressure to perform back on the LCS stage.
Yeah, I wasn't that comfortable when I first played. The expectations were pretty high. I don't quite know where they came from. I played last time in LCS 1.5 years ago. So there was kind of high expectations and made me stressed a bit, but I'm getting into my game again now. It's always fun being back in LCS, but I was playing like a lot of tournaments as well in Season 4, just smaller tournaments, but yeah, it's definitely great being back here on the biggest stage again.
Well, confident words there from Nukeduck and also from the coach from ROCCAT coming in. Want to end first or second. That means they'll have to beat the Unicorns of Love here in the game that they're up against today.
Yeah, but he's advertising how well they can come back from being behind. But if you want to end up first and second, you need to stop getting behind and you start getting ahead. So that's definitely, I want to see more from ROCCAT. I feel they played too far back, almost similar to Elements sometimes. You know, they just let stuff happen and then like, oh, we're playing this game. Let's start clawing back into it. I really want to see more, passion come out, like more forward play. Yeah, especially against the Unicorns of Love, who are a team that love to get aggressive early as well. Let's actually take a look at the lineup for those Unicorns of Love on the blue side. We have, of course, Vizichachi, Kikis, Power of Evil, Vardax, Hillesang, and they are coached by Sheepy. They are coming off an inconsistent week, 1-1. A loss to Copenhagen Wolves, but something
that must push them forward. A win versus Fnatic in that one, and actually for the first time being able to stop a game, reevaluate what they have to do, and then come back in the late game. Very good by them.
Yeah, I was impressed by the performance there, but what I really want to highlight is the bot lane. I really think UOL's bot lane definitely needs a lot of work to improve still, and I think Hylissang in his laning phase on Leona was just rather poor. You know, he missed the Zenith Blade flash, he missed some ultimates. Later in the game, once his team started working together, he definitely does his role in terms of picks. So I'm interested to see, one, does he go for Leona again? And two, yeah, is he going to work if he does?
We will see. On the other side, of course, it is ROCCAT. Let's take a look at their lineup. Overpow, Jankos, Nukeduck, Woolite, Vander, and Ducky. And Ducky actually said in the interview himself, he said, we're doing so good online, we have such high expectations, but it hasn't come out offline or here in the LCS yet. And to me, they are in the same boat as the Unicorns of Love, because they are middle of the table, unless they prove us that they are actually top of the table in this one. What will be the most important thing for ROCCAT to tackle the Unicorns here?
Yeah, start using the wards that Vander places a little better, I think. Vander wards a lot as a support, one of the most warding, especially compared to Hylissang. We saw during the break, Hylissang had a 1 ward per minute placed, where I think Vander was at like 1.7 wards a minute in average in their games, and so I want ROCCAT to use that vision more, play around it better, and just play more aggressive instead of using that vision as a safety net to crawl back into the late game and be like, okay, yeah, we don't have to give up this much because we always see what's happening. Why don't you use that vision to your advantage, get a little more aggressive? And then, yeah, I just want Nukeduck to get into his zone. I really like him as a player. I've seen so many great things from him, mostly in solo queue recently, and I think he's a fantastic player. And I want him to be able to show it on the stage.
Yeah, Tall Order up ahead against Power of Evil. What a fantastic matchup that's going to be. With that being said, it's time to hand it over to the casters to take us into game.
Thank you, Shocks. I'm Devin, Pyrotechnics Young, and for the rest of the day, I'll be calling action on the desk with the help of Martin, Deficio, Linga, starting right now as the Unicorns of Love get ready to face off against ROCCAT. Now, Deficio, these are both teams right in the middle, as Shocks was saying. They're both teams that definitely have something to prove to see if they can rise above the rest. What do you expect to see here? Because it's kind of hard to ask that question against Unicorns anyway.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's almost impossible to predict how Unicorns are going to play, because one game they win on 25 minutes, the next they lose on 25 minutes. Been way too inconsistent. I feel like ROCCAT has been more consistent in their performance, and I really want to see how they can play now against Unicorns of Love and if that early game is improved or not.
I completely agree with you there. I think the Unicorns are definitely a large question mark here. ROCCAT is much more consistent in what they do. They do have these long games. They do hold out and last if they can, and they never seem to lose decisively. It's always by just a little.
And always a lot of focus again on division. We just heard from the analyst desk how Vander is the support who wards the most in the EU LCS, and it's just been the go-to thing for ROCCAT. And what we actually have seen from them is they're starting to play more aggressive with the warding as well, and I expect to see the same against Unicorns.
Yeah, I think that is definitely going to be the case. Bans went quick here.
Yeah.
And yeah, the Nidalee gets picked up almost immediately. That one gets locked in for Kikis. But of course, those bans, the Zed, the Lissandra Cassin, a lot of mid-focus there. And on ROCCAT's side, they take out the Jarvan, the Gnar, and the Ahri. And ROCCAT looking at what they want to pick up here in answer. The Nidalee, a bit surprised it made it through, but still.
Yeah, actually been banned in every other game we had today. Still considered here in Europe as one of the top junglers, not the top jungler, simply because of your early game burst damage. And obviously we have seen Jankos played last week. He won't get his hands on it this time because Kikis wants his second go on the Nidalee for himself. So I'm expecting to see some early aggression now coming out of Unicorns just from this Nidalee. And obviously because they are who they are.
It definitely seems to be the way to define them. Have that on switch. They did find a bit of a pause though.
Yeah.
And in that win over Fnatic, it was definitely stupendous to see. Let's see if they can fill out this very early aggressive comp against ROCCAT, or if they'll do something different.
Yeah, we see ROCCAT do the same thing Fnatic did in the last game, where you blind pick Xerath in the very first rotation. Nukeduck feeling very confident, clearly here. Everyone had a good showing. It worked for Fnatic, but there is still quite a lot of counter picks, or at least fairly strong picks into a Xerath. Keep in mind, he's a very immobile champion. He's very one-dimensional in what he's doing, so you can pick around it. And that's what they're doing with this Maokai lock-in here, because he can always dive onto Xerath in a team fight, and he has that 20% magic damage reduction, obviously, to help out his team as well.
Really surprised that of course, the Rec side did make it through for a little bit. It was through the ban phase, and as I was going to say, they spent so much, the Unicorns did, on these mid and top flex picks that they neglected something like that. It does go through. Jankos is going to be able to pick it up. And now Woolite is eyeballing a hyper carry, and he does. He goes for the Kog'Maw.
Yeah, so very late game focused combo already coming in from ROCCAT, but actually still a fairly good power spike curve they have in because you're building Trinity Force normally, and then obviously Morel Nomicon coming in from a Zeref. So you actually have a fairly good mid game as well, where you can group up and you can start teaching down a tower. Not as effective as a Corki Zeref comp like we saw Fnatic use, but still very, very strong. And obviously the late game now, two very, very hard scaling champions from ROCCAT. But it's not like the Unicorns with their first few picks are looking weak either. Caitlyn, one of the hyper carries we do have, Maokai, fantastic tank in the late game. Only problem is that Nidalee, she doesn't offer too much in a late game fight.
Not particularly, and it does seem like it's a bit of the way the Lee Sin used to be picked up as sort of a bridge in some cases, except for this is more snowballing off those ganks. And you see the last lock-ins for Unicorns, they do pick up the Morgana, and they take the Cassiopeia.
We are going late game.
Yes, we are.
Both teams really, really having some strong comps here. Obviously, the Rek'Sai will outscale Nidalee in terms of the fights.
But there's also a lot of early game gank pressure, too. And once you hit 6, it becomes really, really irritating. So I feel like it's on the junglers. You know, Jankos is called the First Blood King for a reason.
True. We have to remember, however, that Rek'Sai has lost quite a lot of damage in the early game. 5.1, 5.2, some nerfs to her. And that simply means in a straight up one-on-one, as long as Kikis gets like the jump onto Jankos, then he's actually going to be stronger. And that's something Unicorns can use with these fairly strong lanes, especially the mid and the bottom lane with the Caitlyn and the Cassiopeia. Push those waves in, play very aggressive there, and therefore allow Kikis now to invade into the enemy jungle, look for these one-on-one fights with Jankos.
And there is the Scion lock-in as well. So ROCCAT gives themselves some serious tank. We get to see a little bit more variety this time, and I'm actually really excited to see how Power of Evil does on this Cassiopeia. It's actually been banned against this team in half the games so far, and because it makes it through, he goes a little bit different. I still think it's going to help his playstyle, because he does make not very mobile champions look pretty mobile.
Very true, very true. He's very good at his positioning in fights and in the laning phase, but again, both teams here, some very, very strong late game team fights we're going to look at. We have the two tanks. Obviously, I will still say the Maokai in a late game fight. I'll take him over Sion any day. But Sion's mid game, because he doesn't need to go Rod of Ages, he's just going to go straight tank, nothing else. He gets a very, very early tank power spike, if we can call it that, where he becomes extremely hard to deal with. And that's why, again, ROCCAT, because you actually have some decent mid game through Nukeduck and Woolite, Trinity Force, Morel, Nomicon coming in, can actually group there and look for fights. While the Caitlyn is really weak and needs more time to scale up, Cassiopeia as well want to stack up that poison. So the mid game here is where ROCCAT can try and make some plays to get that lead and get your carries into late game first, and then win the team fights before Unicorns get up there as well.
Yeah, I think they've definitely picked a comp that they're going to be able to do that with. The question is, can they execute? Can they deal with the chaos that the Unicorns create? Now, you've seen those lineups. Let us know what your predictions are. Go ahead and tweet us at LOL Esports using the hashtag UOL win or ROC win. We'll check on those results in the game. But this is going to be a crazy one. How could it not be? The Unicorns of Love are going to be taking on Team ROCCAT. The banners are lit, the chants are up, and we're onto the Rift.
And two teams here trying to get into the top 3 in Europe. Both of them want to be up there with obviously Elements, Fnatic, and SK Gaming. Just haven't really shown the consistency yet for Unicorns, and we're just seeing ROCCAT with a very hard schedule, but also playing way too passive, falling behind in the early game. So clear weaknesses for both teams that can be exploited.
Well, it will really come down to how those two teams do execute. And yes, I think ROCCAT are a bit more consistent, but they do have their own set of issues. The real question is, where do these junglers go? Where do they make their early plays? We've seen a lot of Nidalees so far since it's been picked up more and more. Kikis didn't have an incredibly impressive game on it,
30 seconds until
but there's still the potential there to do something really, really crazy in the early game, start snowballing kills. And if they can do that, I'm really worried for ROCCAT.
Yeah, I agree for sure here. Then Italy is going to help Unicorns of Love get into this late game stage for themselves. But it's fun because the two junglers we have in this game is widely considered here in Europe as the two best junglers. Or at least they're with the likes of a Jarvan. And they both offer map control Nidalee offers map control through her strong one-on-one potential, so she can invade into your jungle, find your jungler and fight him and kill him. Place a few wards, and that way she's going to be able to control it. While Rek'Sai, of course, with her ulti, is able to jump from one lane to another, her strong early ganks as well. So you have two junglers here who can really impact early on. And obviously Kikis and Jankos has been two of the better junglers here in Europe. Jankos widely considered, if not the best, then at least top two together with Svenskeren.
Uh-oh, starting off early, Vander is going to eat a binding followed by the Peacemaker. That'll teach him to be checking too close to the brush. And everything else looks like it's going to be a pretty standard start, as well as Vizicsacsi making his way up to the top lane. And you touched on a really interesting point. I feel like not just Jankos, but all of ROCCAT have a lot of respect of the rest of the teams in the European LCS, despite the fact that they started 1-3. They're very, there's Overpow doing that Scion. They started at 1-3, yeah, they had a really rough schedule and they bounced back pretty well. Now they're at 3-3, but every time I talk to another team in the European LCS, always say, great in scrims,
yeah,
they're really terrible, terrifying to play against, and they don't have the worst record in the world right now. I want to see how they go forward in this one, because it seems like they've definitely found a stride.
Yeah, again, we know the late game is good. We know the team fighting is great. They've placed a lot of wards as well as a team, but they just play too safe, simply in the early game. But still, I want to give them the credit from last week, because we saw the same move from ROCCAT in both the games, where as soon as they had the chance, they would actually rotate the AD carry to the top lane, take down the tower, and then with him and Vander, they would walk down to the enemy jungle, place a few deep wards, and this again we're talking 12-13 minutes, and kind of be more aggressive in the way they were playing. But this lane here, obviously remember when you pick a Caitlyn, you want to win your laning phase. That's where you are very, very strong, and that's why we see Unicorns also aiming for this 2-on-2 setup, trying really to poke out Woolite and make sure he can get the fun he needs. And this is the map control we talk about with Nidalee. She can go into the enemy jungle. Notice how the bottom lane is pushing up for Unicorns, and he's finding Jankos.
Yep, does land the spear, and he just goes ahead and steals the Gromp away. So Kikis will grab a little something for his trouble. Should set Jankos back for just a moment. Try to keep tabs on where that jungler will be at all times. A little bit difficult when dealing with the Void Monster, but he's doing a good job so far.
Doing a very, very good job here from Kikis, and it's what we mentioned with the two lanes. As long as you can control the mid and the bottom lane, you open up for him to walk in there and know he can get assistance from his teammates. Therefore, gets a Gromp for himself and a level advantage on Jankos. No, someone was forced. Vizicsacsi trading with Overpower in a bit of a wet noodle fight up here between two super tanks. Remember, Sion can go straight tank, where we're gonna see the Rod of Ages coming in from the Maokai. So needs a little bit more time to scale up, but you do then have your ulti with the 20% damage reduction.
I don't think I've ever seen a tree do that much damage to a Lumberjack, but he's gonna have to be a little bit careful. He's got that flask to heal up a little bit. Meanwhile, Vardak's having to pop potion of his own, and he's been able to trade out with Woolite here, but the problem is that late game, yes, Caitlyn is going to be fantastic. Of course, she should win the lane, but should they ever fall behind, this is when a Kog'Maw is going to start shining quite a lot, and they have some pick potential. They wander too close. Vander has been letting those hooks fly.
Yeah, so the problem is, again, this Morgana coming in with their Black Shield, making it nearly impossible for Vander to set up any place. You can actually proc the Black Shield fairly easily as a Thresh, get a few ranks in either. Typically we see in the Flay, you can use that to proc the Black Shield and then still connect. And obviously if you land the hook, while you won't snare the target, you can still follow up on it and actually jump onto him and maybe switch over to the Caitlyn. So there are ways to play around it for Vander, but it's becoming very hard, especially because they're losing the one-on-one AD carry trade.
Yeah, while we're on the subject of those AD carry trades, you know, these two bot lanes are definitely a little bit night and day in a few of their numbers. In particular, I want to focus on Vardegs and Hylissang because they actually have the most deaths in the entirety of the European LCS in terms of their role. So that bot lane collectively gone 49 deaths. I mean, they've definitely had a hard time. Admittedly, they've gotten in some really crazy fights, some really crazy situations, but you got to think that this is almost like a guaranteed safety lane for them. And I wonder how much that particular stat line's really made that into their mind.
I mean, we very often see Hylissang being the guy that sacrifices himself for the team. He's engaging in. He's played Leona 4 times and always going in first, so that's obviously why he's been racking up so many deaths here, while Vardax, on the other hand, it basically comes from the fact that when unicorns are losing, they're getting destroyed. Like, that's it. They just get stomped in their games and end up dying so much. But again, look at Kikis. Already placed a few D-bots in the jungle. He keeps walking around looking for Jankos. Jankos won't be able to do anything to him. And he can use this to say, okay, Crooks were alive, so I know Jankos hasn't been here for a while, so I'm going to consider that either he's back in base or he's on the bottom side of the map because he didn't see him on any of the wards. Use that information always to make sure you know where the jungler is and you don't go too aggressive when he could be nearby.
Yeah, just trying to find any moment he can get in and attack Jankos, but settling for a little bit of counter jungling isn't the worst thing in the world either. The problem is, you mentioned it, Nidalee got that ticking timer of usefulness, so Kikis is going to have to find an in here. So far, he hasn't really impacted the lanes too much. We'll see where he decides to go next.
Yeah, putting all his focus on counter jungling, not ganking, and there we see the rank 2 hook from Vander, instantly removing the black shield from Hylissang, and then you can follow up with a play as your way of actually engaging, but you don't really have that all-in potential. Woolite is just going to sit back and try and farm from ROCCAT's side.
He's done quite well in a lane that is a little bit rough for the Kog'Maw. I guess there's probably quite a lot of those, but he's kept up reasonably well in farm. He was pushed back. Yes, he's down about 9-10 farm right now, but they've been playing it incredibly safe, and not a moment too soon they place that ward down. Here comes Kikis, gonna get spotted. The flash, nothing is going to connect, actually. You saw some spears and dark bindings, but they all just threaded the needle as Woolite was able to grab a lantern out to safety. And right back to the farm game.
Right back to the farm game. Yeah, Hylissang tried to surprise with flash binding. Not exactly the easy thing to hit. And in the end, the Vander.
Oh, he's able to hit one point blank, though. Yeah, and now Vardags is here. Woolite gonna burn his flash. He's gonna go low. And that's first blood. Hylissang trying to answer back with the kill. Ignite is just gonna do it. Vander picks up the answer. Now Vizichachi dealing with Overpower and Jankos, but he is a very tanky tree, and he's trying to walk it on back home. Meanwhile, in the mid, suddenly the switch is flipped. It's turned on. Nukeduck flashes. Power people. That's another kill. He's able to go on forward with the flash and make the play. All said and done around the map. 2-1.
Remember again, this was the first rotation. Xerath, blind pick coming in from ROCCAT. Worked Feverin in the last game. Now a one-on-one kill for Power of Evil, and down the bottom lane we saw the binding into a trap, the old Caitlyn Morgana lane. In the end they trade 1-for-1, but there was a kill for Vardags, where it was a kill for Vander on the side of ROCCAT.
Yeah, and Hylissang was the one that did get killed. Vardags got that one back up, and of course they pick up the dragon after all of that. The Unicorns, say what else you want about them, they certainly know how to take advantage of a situation, and they managed to grab themselves a nice little edge there.
Look at Power of Evil here. Normally we just see Tear as your first item on a Cassiopeia, and then you can go into like a Rhyalize maybe as your second item. He's actually building towards a Rod of Ages as well. So with this early kill and the free farm he's had in lane, he's feeling like he can actually get that Rod of Ages early enough to make it stack up in time and be useful. And then obviously have the Tear as well, which is going to be fully stacked around for him, probably 22-minute point in this game as long as he can stay in the lane and farm. So really gonna look towards 2 early scaling items, and it can pay off for him because he gets them this early on with that with the 1 kill in lane.
Yeah, I think as you mentioned before, it's all gonna come down to if they're going to be able to take advantage in the mid game. ROCCAT, that is. Right now, they're definitely keeping pace, but you can't afford to give up too many picks like that, especially against the team that typically had been having some trouble in the laning phase. Now, I mean, it's not entirely fair because it is a Caitlyn Morgana lane, but Woolite, he cannot afford to eat another point blank binding like that because Vardags is just going to start shredding through his health.
Yeah, that's for sure here. He just needs to stay back and farm. Jankos moving here to try to set up a lane gang.
He's got the
no
skirmishers
flash,
on too.
No flash for Hylissang. Gonna be all about that black shield. It is down for now, so Vander can go for it. There it is.
He's gonna play backwards. Hylissang looks to be the target in sights. They zoom right on in. Jankos is gonna pick him up, but he's gotta walk it out. Here comes the teleport from Vizichachi. Jankos, Vander, Woolite, can they escape? Woolite is just too slow, and just like that, a spear, a shot, an ace in the hole. And Unicorns of Love pick up another kill.
Getting a kill here. Again, they're trading 1-for-1, these two teams. Vizichachi had to use the teleport. It was already down from Overpower, so he wasn't able to join. Should be a tower as well. You have the Nidalee heal onto a Caitlyn. That's a good combination we have seen a few times here in Europe, where you use that to simply fast push down towers to get the attack speed onto a Caitlyn with a long range, so you can stay safely back. and you very quickly get a few outer turrets and some global gold.
Right, and the best part about that is they didn't have to give up the top turret. It looks like he's still trying to push on it, but Overpower just doesn't have the damage
Nobody
on
saw
the full
that.
tank Scion, and yeah.
There we go.
I was
There we go. There we go.
he makes it up the
He's
second
fine.
time.
He's fine.
Hey, we've all been there, Deficio.
Indeed we have. And it's worse if you flash into the wall.
Yes, that does hurt. So Overpower's going to try to push this tower in finally, but again, it's so difficult when you don't have that much damage. He'll finally be able to chop it down. He sticks around a little bit long, but Vizicachi is still there. Here comes Hylissang around the side. He's going to start charging. Can they let? No! Way too fast, and he'll zoom his way back to his own tower. A lot of unicorns were looking to charge him down there, but you can't beat that Scion when he goes running.
Nope, once he pops his ulti, it's a hard man to lock down. Kikis again. Probably been spending more time in the jungle of ROCCAT than his own here. Keep counter jungling, and yeah, skirmishes Saber actually for Jankos, so he's gonna aim for these late game team fights instead of their early ganking pressure, and simply have the 20% damage reduction on either Vardex or Power of Evil when he's trying to dive in, because keep in mind, Unicorns is only gonna run with Maokai's front line. If ROCCAT can then send in the Rek'Sai and the Scion, they can buy more time, the Unicorns can, for their carries to take down the Maokai and then start rolling over Unicorns.
Yeah, that's definitely going to be the game plan for them. But for now, the Unicorns still maintain a nice 3,000 gold edge. And it's difficult for Jankos to really get involved in his own jungle here. All the outer turrets have been knocked down for ROCCAT. The Unicorns will be able to spend a little bit of that gold they've acquired. And Jankos, you know, he's done decently well in this Nidalee. Not really an explosive power. And there you go. There's the Medjai's Soul Stealer again. You know, he got 20 stacks on it that last time, or the time before, rather.
Yeah, so Jankos normally, obviously, when he's playing Italy, gets the Soul Stealer. Kick is stealing it now, getting it for himself.
Yeah.
And
he's adopting the build.
Again, it's so hard to comment on that Soul Stealer because it's such a risky buy. But the Nidalee players like to do it because you need to snowball anyway to be effective in the late game fights, so why not have that Soul Stealer if you end up losing all the stacks on it, or if you just go standard normal AP, you might not be as useful anyway, so why not try and go for it?
That looked like it hurt.
And that's the first stack already here. Keep in mind, it is nearly gold efficient when you buy it. Get 1 or 2 stacks, and then you are good to go with that Soul Stealer on an Italy. And really, Unicorns looking to snowball.
Looking to close out the options that Jankos does have in his own jungle. I have never seen so many Rek'Sai tunnels cleared, and they're not really letting ROCCAT have a whole lot of breathing room in this one, but with 45 seconds
that is
Drake's
trouble.
gonna have to. Yes, there we go. They land not quite everything, but it was enough to take him down. Kikis is going to take one shot from the tower and leaps away from the Acathian surprise. Tower's now on the menu, boys, right after a healthy serving of Kog'Maw.
Really love the way Unicorns are using their lane dominance just to get more and more kills, not just sitting back and allowing ROCCAT to farm. Nope. We sit and hide in random bushes. We kill your AD carry when he's trying to farm actually around his own tower. And suddenly there's a Cassiopeia sitting, waiting for you. Keep pressuring this advantage. Deep bolts are in there. Towers will go down as well. Now though, Overpower is flying in.
Yeah, he's going to try to make something happen. They scatter away from Kikis, but they found Nuke Duck around the side, and Power of Evil will be able to pick another. Kikis not quite going down. Yes, he is. The Prey Seeker nails him in the back, but there is going to be a fight right after that. Jankos going very low. Vizicachi, Power of Evil, coming up with another Pixel Rampage kill. His 4th of the game. Unicorns of Love, they're just simply beating ROCCAT to the punch here.
Completely, and second time Nuke Duck here gets caught out. First one-on-one in the lane, and now trying to come in and assist his team in a fight, but he walks through his own jungle, which is warded by Unicorns, and they jump him instantly. Let's see it again. So Oba jumping in. Notice here Nuke Duck on the side. Well, you're on a ward, my friend, and Unicorns are ready to collapse onto you. He's dead. Kikis will go down as well, but the fight is still won by the Unicorns. Another kill onto Jankos, and they keep applying the pressure, not allowing ROCCAT to do anything.
The target prioritization from the Unicorns is really spectacular here, because they find if the squishy targets, the immobile targets, are just an inch out of position, and they immediately collapse. In mass too. Like, I've just been really impressed with the way that they've been able to do that. Frost Queen's claim being used by Hylissang to try and push Nuke Duck and Overpower off this tower, keeping him safe for now.
You have Archangel and a Rod of Ages already completed around the 16-minute mark.
Oh yeah.
It's gonna stack up so fast for Power of Evil here. He's gonna be really, really strong in this game. And even Vardax, because he gets all these early kills, he got the towers, he got the farm, you're just gonna skip right past the weak Caitlyn mid-game, get to your 2-item and 3-item spike, where obviously ROCCAT now still only sitting on 1 completed core item for each member. Trinity Force is now completed by Woolite.
This is the mid-game that ROCCAT had to be ahead in, and unfortunately, they've really fallen quite far behind. 6,000 gold. We usually talk about how they're able to hold out quite well, but this game's starting to look a little more one-sided.
Yeah, and remember, it was ROCCAT who decided to do standard lanes. There was no swapping coming in, despite Sion also being one of the best top laners in a lane swap. They decided to go standard lanes. Lost every single lane, actually, in terms of farm, kills even in bot and mid lane, and been losing their turrets ever since.
Yeah, they just can't quite clear the wave away fast enough. However, the shield will be enough to keep it at full health. The Unicorns, however, still roaming around in mass and dragging ROCCAT around the map. They're really dictating the pace of this game, and that's just fine by them, because the longer it goes, the bigger Power of Evil is going to get, and he's not the only one.
Oh, he's not the only one, that's for sure. The Maokai as well, going into the late game. Be a force to be reckoned with. Obviously, there's quite some tank damage on him from the likes of Woolite, but the more time he spends on killing Visichachi, the more time Power of Evil and Vardax is going to spend on killing the rest of ROCCAT.
Yeah, can't really deal with that many threats at once, it seems. ROCCAT are attempting to save 2 sides of their base right now, but the Unicorns are stretching them a little bit thin around here. Mini Wave pushing in their favor on the bottom as well, so they'll have to deal with that eventually.
Exactly, they are putting pressure here on 3 lanes at once, waiting for these minions to push up in the bottom lane, so ROCCAT has to send someone back and defend that one. Will take a lot of damage on their inhibitor turret while they're making sure they control the top side of the jungle where they're moving in between, getting a few hits on the tower every single time and just forcing ROCCAT to stay back and try and wave clear.
Really not giving them much of an opening, and that minion wave in the bottom starting to build really big
massive
here. Yep, gonna be a problem as it goes forward. Unicorn still taking everything out of the jungle away from ROCCAT. Yankos has not been able to really get in and do much of anything. He does have a better scoreline than Kikis, but that's not really going to mean much at this point in the game. 19 minutes in, they've caught Nukeduck on a binding. A hook comes in. Towers at half health. They're just going to keep sieging it down. Woolite, though, he's got a bit of damage, but he's going to take an ace in the hole for his troubles as well. And the Unicorns are still not deterred.
No, they did take a lot of damage here, though. We did see the binding onto Nukeduck, followed by a spear, a little Peacemaker, but ROCCAT actually managed to hold off for now with their wave there. Nukeduck got to clear the bottom lane, and no tower going down for the Unicorns of Love just yet.
Not quite
Also
yet.
close. They can do exactly the same again. They have nothing to be afraid of. Go straight in there, do the same. Slow push one wave with minions. Have Vishichachi push the other one and have 4 guys in the mid lane. Power of Evil.
Yep.
Forcing Overpower to ult again.
He's done that so many times to try to get away, and yes, it's worked, but when you have to spend your ults defensively, when you have to move back and maybe buy as many defensive items as possible, it's definitely not looking good. You're not controlling the pace of the game very well. And again, ROCCAT, it seems like they haven't just had their power spike delayed, they've almost entirely missed it here.
Yeah, haven't been able to group up at all and use at least the Trinity Force on Woolite, but it's not the end of the world as long as you don't fall too far behind, which then will become the end of the world, and that's what we're seeing here from ROCCAT. 6,000 gold behind in 20 minutes, 4 towers. Another dragon should be picked up soon as well for the Unicorns, 2-0. But you didn't have to make plays if you were ROCCAT. I mean, the late game is still strong, as long as you just didn't fall behind and made sure Woolite could farm, and that's not been the case. He fell behind the lane, he's died 3 times already, and there's going to be a very delayed Blade of the Ruined King coming in from him as well. And Unicorns can fight at any time they want to, especially because Power of Evil. I mean, look at that guy, he's going to be so strong.
Yeah, he's definitely the most immediate threat on this team, and ROCCAT not entirely respecting that damage, especially not in the lane phase. Nukeduck has had anything but an easy game for himself at 0-2. And there goes the Rek'Sai Scream, but just a little bit more farm here. Overpower going to duke it out with Vishichachi. Here comes Yankos, actually a little more than he bargained for. Can't quite pick the pink ward.
Phantom Dancer should be completed now for Vardax. Going for the maximum amount of team fight damage he can get. No static shift to fast push any waves for him. And now Last Whisper, once it comes in, he can actually deal with the Sion fairly well. Because we have to remember Sion as a pick. Yes, he gets very tanky, but he has 0 damage in a late game fight. And his CC is fairly unreliable as well. From ulti to his Q, a bit of a slow charge before you get the knock-up from it. And that's one of his main problems, that if you don't actually do well in the mid-game with the Sion, you're just not as strong as the other tanks.
Yeah,
Teleport as well.
Really
Chachi.
trying to find a wall life, but there we go. Chachi's going in. They're going to try to force the fight. The spear is going to connect. They're able to get the damage out and Visit Chachi picking up Nuke Duck. Overpower now, flashing low. There is the twisted advance and Visit Chachi walking it on out. Hylissang a bit low. Visit Chachi completely fine and all that. 1-2, pick up the kills, go right back to pushing the turret. This is Unicorns all over.
Yeah, and it's funny again. Look at the minimap. It's all about ROCCAT in terms of warding in their own jungle. They place so many defensive wards, but this was just a random teleport come in from Visit Chachi to flank them, and then a fight around the mid lane itself, land the binding, land the snare from Visit Chachi, and then suddenly you can just follow up with all your single target damage from the Cassiopeia and the Caitlyn.
Yeah, it's really strange seeing so many wards on the ROCCAT side just not converted into anything. There is that third dragon picked up for them, and actually, it's funny you bring that up too, because of these two supports, Vander's the one who wards far more, and Hylissang not so much. Let's take a look at how that play shaped up despite the vision.
Yeah, again, so Visit Chachi gets a great engage with his teleport, and ROCCAT, are just so far behind that once Visit Chachi gets onto either Nuke Dog or Woolite, then that target is going to die with so much single target damage coming out of Power Beaver and Bardex. They're starting a Desperation Baron here.
They don't have the damage really for it if the Unicorns do find out, but again, maybe
it.
that vision, there we go, the blue trinket goes down and they have to peel off as the Unicorns start heading towards the Baron pit. ROCCAT bail away.
Just had to go for it. I mean, there's nothing else on the map. Dragon was already gone. And had the Unicorns just walk straight up mid lane, then a free Baron there for ROCCAT, but now
Unicorns are
taking over. There's a ward outside the Baron pit here, so ROCCAT can see that this is started.
They don't have a
start
much
moving
damage
down.
either.
That's the Cassiopeia, however, with the blue buff.
Oh, now that she's shown up, yeah, that's a little bit tricky though. A little bit damage taken by both teams. It's a tense moment as they both peel away from the Baron. Now it is Unicorns who are moving back up the middle, actually through the jungle of ROCCAT, who are in fast retreat.
Yeah, if Unicorns want to start this Baron again, then they have to do what they're doing right now. Clear out these ping wards, place your own wards deep in the jungle so you can see ROCCAT coming, and you need an Oracle Lens. Oracle's Lens here to clear all these wards from ROCCAT around this Baron, otherwise you won't be able to start it. The start of Hylissang, so they decide to back away from it. Once again, take over the jungle.
This time the vision helps for sure.
Yeah. There's still so many wards from ROCCAT, so they're going to see them start it. Again, as soon as Visit Chachi walks in here, there you go, you can see him walk into the Baron pit. And ROCCAT are reacting to it. Still a lot of damage from Unicorns.
Yeah, I gotta admire the tenacity that they still
can hold them off
and
here.
do this
That's
here.
good.
Yeah, this is actually gonna come down to it. They do get it smited down so close. And the Baron is picked up by the Unicorns. No casualties sustained.
Yeah, and they didn't actually even need to clear these wards around the Baron because Nuke Dog showed himself in the bottom lane.
Whoa, okay.
That's close
Too much. That's okay. Hylissang's there. And he is actually able to dodge out the hook. Ace in the hole comes out to make Vander a little bit lower. ROCCAT now retreating once again. And they're just going to start shoving down mid with these Baron empowered minions.
Yeah, a few deep wards and then Nuke Dog showing himself in the bottom lane. And then Unicorns went straight for that Baron here. Ignore the pink wards, or sorry, the green wards around it, didn't matter. They are looking good. 25 minutes. Inhibitor down. Baron picked up all the dragons. 10,000 gold lead.
I like that they kind of have this fusionist style, the Unicorns do. They're able to play methodically when they want to, but when you least expect it, they're going to throw something crazy and like, oh, you just tried a Baron? Okay, now we're going to try the Baron. And now they're going to be able to push on, but Visit Chachi is caught. He's causing some chaos of his own. In the back, the tower's down. He's going to go down, and they'll trade the objective and back away from the remainder of the Right of the Arcane.
Yeah, another inhibitor open here for the Unicorns. Go back, use all the gold they've picked up. Like 2,600 gold on Vardax, 1,600 on Kikis. I mean, there's a lot of gold being picked up here. Some key items coming in and go straight back down to that inhibitor. Get that one, and then suddenly let the super minions do the work while you take the last outer turret in the top lane. This should not be difficult for the Unicorns to do and basically take that win, not allowing ROCCAT to do anything.
Well, you mentioned they tend to win these snowball fashions when they can just trample down opponents. ROCCAT has almost never been in a hole this big, and this is really troubling for them. We talked a lot about how a lot of teams consider them to be one of the best and one of the most underrated teams in Europe. Right now, the Unicorns are really proving that assertion otherwise.
Again, they're showing the same early dominance we have seen before from them. When they're every time they pick up wins, except for the Fnatic games, you see through them winning the laning phase and just keep applying pressure onto the enemy team, never allowing them to just sit and farm. And they've been doing it again because every single lane was winning. And especially with Vardex getting that early kill and Power Vivo getting the early kills, it's just gone so wrong for ROCCAT.
Yeah, Power of Evil is just getting so scary. Kick is still staying relevant in the back, just throwing spears as best he can. And also worth mentioning here, Vardex has got a pretty darn good scoreline for himself. We're getting to that point in the game where Caitlyn's starting to come a lot more useful once again. Tower, or rather Inhibitor, at half health, and they're still protecting the big minion. Meanwhile, Vizichachi going to do a little split pushing of his own. Can ROCCAT defend this Inhib? It's going to be tough.
Keep in mind as well, ROCCAT, their engage is very easy to spot for Unicorns of Love. This is Cyan trying to run in, so they won't be able to start any fights. No real hard engage on the side of ROCCAT either.
They're living in this base right now. There's no one that can defend against Vizichachi. It's going to take him a while to poke this down, but he's got some minions at his back. And the rest of the team is going to show up here as well. Unicorns of Love just taking everything away from ROCCAT, not letting them out of their base. They grab another turret here. It's 28 minutes in, and this is looking so dire for Team ROCCAT.
Yeah, again, push into this turret here, wait for the super minions to do some work in the mid lane. We see they're already close to that Nexus turret, and then take down the tower as soon as ROCCAT has moved away.
They can't get in position in time. The tower's at half health. They're going to be able to push off for the mini waves for just a moment, but there will be one in another minute or two. Power of Evil, Vardex in the front line, unafraid of this ROCCAT squad. And meanwhile, Vizichachi just went ahead and switched positions. He's down on the bottom side. He's poking away. They're getting super minions on the way. I mean, this is just going so well right now for the Unicorns.
Yeah, no reason to back away. Stay till this tower is gone. Heal Vardex, let him get a few hits on the tower every single time, then it will go down.
Yep. Power of Evil are going to tank a little bit up. There's still some super minions on the bottom side. The tower goes down. There we go, Flesh and Form. Vizichachi is going to manage to grab himself a Woolite kill. They're chasing ROCCAT all the way back to their fountain. They've got nowhere to go here. 29.5 minutes. They grab themselves the last inhibitor. They can just keep pushing in as slowly as they please. There is nothing ROCCAT can do to stop them.
Nothing at all, and really, really good performance. Might try and get a few kills.
Yeah, Power of Evil does take a few shots on the right of the Arcane. Even if they back out here and take a moment and just come right back, there's 3 inhibitors down. There's a dragon that's easily the Unicorns. They can even take their time about this because there's still going to be a few minutes before that even that first inhibitor comes back up.
And again, just like last time when they went back to base, there's like 1,600 plus gold on every member. Look at that here. More items incoming for the Unicorns of Love. They should not be afraid. They aren't, obviously. It's probably the easiest statement in the world. But I do think Unicorns are going to win.
Yeah, and they definitely have shown some impressive games when they've won in the European LCS, but this is just a massive lead for them. 10 towers to 3, 15,000 gold ahead of their opponents. And ROCCAT, they're not a bad team. They've just gotten so far out-rotated, so beat down in the mid-game that they were supposed to be strong. They've not played in the laning phase. Their win conditions, they just did not fit. And as a result, the Unicorns have stampeded all over them.
Basically, yeah. It's all about that early laning phase. Going so heavily in favor of the Unicorns. And then again, them not sitting back, trying to play passive. Really showing how both the Unicorns and H2K have showed today a great ability to close out games. And no longer the passive EU style we had last year. No, there's only one way once you have a lead, and that's forward. Keep pushing it, keep forcing fights, forcing objectives.
Unicorns is this team. They're the ones that do challenge the meta, that do push it forward. And right now, pushing forward into the base, the inhibitor will fall once again in the middle. not much ROCCAT can do. They've backed themselves into a corner, been backed into a corner, I should say. Vander going to intercept the ace in the hole. But there's only one Nexus tower remaining, and it doesn't look like it's going to be there for much longer. Unicorns of Love chasing them all away. Woolite just trying to stay alive, and he just gets popped down. Not even going to try for the Acathian surprise. That's going to be it. 31.5 minutes in. GG as the Unicorns of Love put another W on the board.
Fantastic win by the Unicorns of Love here. Very happy all around, of course.
Well done there. And cheers all around. They've earned it. Methodical victory, big plays for them, and there really wasn't anything that ROCCAT could do in that situation. I don't want to say they lost in picks and bans, but they just didn't execute what they had planned.
I think they picked a comp which was fairly difficult for them to play, especially again if they didn't do well in the laning phase. Because the Cyan pick into the Maokai, we keep talking about how tricky that can be late game, where Maokai is going to be a lot more useful compared to the Cyan. And then obviously again with Power of Evil and Vardax on these two great late game characters. Not saying that ROCCAT weren't strong in the late game. I mean, Nukdog and Woolite would have been able to do
well, they didn't really hardly
job,
get there.
But yeah, that's basically the point. Standard lanes, because it went so heavily in favor of the Unicorns, there's just no way for them to ever get to that late game point and be like even or close to it. You had 3 items completed on the Caitlyn at 30 minutes. You had obviously 3 items completed on the Cassiopeia as well. Like, they got so fast to that 3 item spike on their carries from the Unicorns, they could just roll over ROCCAT. Again, the one-on-one kills, Nukdog getting outplayed in lane against Power of Evil, dodging the stun, killing him. Easy peasy.
Yeah, and I was really excited at the beginning to see Power of Evil playing that Cassiopeia, and man, did he make a statement on it. There's a pretty good reason why teams have been banning it against him, and in general, Cassiopeia is very strong, but in the right hands, Power of Evil,
yeah,
with the right champion, he can just go off. He can get crazy, and the problem was at that point when he started rolling forward, ROCCAT didn't have a response. They just let it happen, and this is rough. This is a problem when you're playing on a mobile champion like Xerath. You don't get rolling in Nukdog's case, and I mean, Jankos, he kind of had to be everywhere, and in the end, he couldn't be anywhere.
Yeah, and I mean, once you fall behind in so many lanes and basically champion for champion all across the board, you are behind. There's barely anything you can do. I mean, in ROCCAT's situation, they tried to sit and just farm a little bit, use the Xerath wave clear, but we saw as soon as they stepped away from their own tower, Unicorns would just teleport in behind them, take a fight, and honestly, it was a lost cause after that laning phase where Vardax and Power of Evil got so far ahead. And then again, the comp from Unicorn scaling so well into that late game. Kikis, while he didn't get too many kills on the Nidalee, we saw him in the jungle of Jankos. Early on, from level 3, he was in there, getting that map control, making sure he could always see where Jankos was on the map, get that information to his team, deny him some farm as well by taking crooks, by taking the grump, whatever it was. So all in all, just a fantastic performance by the Unicorns. And again, ROCCAT, the early game, they have problems. We've seen it time and time again. It really has to be the thing they need to fix if they want to become a top team.
Well, we've said that they have a very defensive style in the beginning, but they kind of left a lot of holes there. They were opened up to a lot of trades. The Unicorns were only happy to make those trades. They thrive in that chaotic playstyle. But again, this was one of the most methodical victories I've seen them play. And it really was down to just knowing exactly what they wanted to do. They sent Kikis to counter jungle. Okay, he can't get the ganks. Okay, he can't find Jankos. That's fine. He's on Rek'Sai. As long as you can shut him down, that seemed to work quite well. And there was nowhere that really could be helped that much. Sign got shoved in pretty hard. They weren't really able to do much anything up top. Any of the lanes, they just got outplayed. And simple as that, they rolled it forward. Now, for a look into the Unicorns of Love win, we're going to send it over to Shox and Krepo at the analyst desk to break that one down.
Thanks so much, Pyra. We're joined here at the desk by Kikis and Power of Evil after that near flawless performance versus ROCCAT. Congratulations, guys.
Thank you.
Let's start by taking it on top, and then the picks and bans, and Kikis, you going for your Nidalee in the first rotation. Absolutely, well, maximum prioritizing that one for you guys.
Well, she's my favorite champion since like season 1. Like, I'm a big Coach GG fan, so I'm obviously gonna go for her whenever I can. And I feel like I'm really strong on her, and like I can excel her like strength.
So we saw the Nidalee come out, right? And then we have Power Evil and Cassiopeia champion you like a lot. And then in bottom lane we see Hylissang's Morgana, which is also one of his favorite champions. So I was like, yeah, they're just picking comfort champions. But then when I looked more at the composition, I saw you guys have this bottom lane that would just push in. You have the mid lane where you have the edge and you're pushing in. And then Kikis, you went for a lot of counter jungling. Was that something you guys had in mind in Champ Select, or did that just kind of happen? Because it was actually really smart seeing you push both lanes and then have the backup for if something goes wrong in the jungle.
Well, we are used to having like a big early game pressure from Nidalee, and I can just run around the map, try to maybe kill enemy jungler, or just try to deny him farm and pressure, like make him scared, make him not ward out, and I can get reports. So like it worked really well together.
And I really like the part, sorry to interrupt, but I just like the part where it transitioned really nicely in like this poke siege comp, where you guys take down all the towers, but also you had the disengage from like Cassiopeia and Maokai. So just a well, kids, take notes. This is a really nice composition.
Take notes. It helps when your lanes are winning. Power of Evil, you had a great game on Cassio. And I actually want to pull the replay up on the screen of when you 1v1 Nukeduck there in the mid lane. Let's get that up on the screen and roll us through this one.
Okay, so I saw Nukeduck is going to room bottom lane, but when the moment I saw him, he took the wrong pathing, so I just went on him as hard as I could and dodged the stun and got him instantly.
Dodged the stun and got him instantly. I gotta say, when you locked in that Cassiopeia, I had a feeling it was gonna go well for you because you wrecked a certain someone on this desk in solo queue earlier in the week.
I don't know what we're talking about.
Yeah, I got my first pentakill.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Arms were weak and team was heavy. Not much I could do there.
Wow.
But in this one, a huge contrast in this game. You guys had the lead and then you absolutely ran with it. And in the game versus the Copenhagen Wolves last week around, you guys had some trouble closing it out and it turned on you. Tomorrow versus MYM, how are you going to make sure that you can get a lead and close it out immediately or maybe even play from behind?
Well, I think in this game we didn't throw the game. As against Copenhagen Wolves, we tried to get the vision control about Nesha. Sorry.
Baron Nesha.
Yeah, Baron Nesha. And even though it was a close call, it was nearly 50-50. We did it a bit sloppy again, but against Meteor Makers, if we control the Baron better, the Dragons were all for us free, so I would say in general we played it pretty good.
Yeah, I think that was the only point where there was still room to improve. Like at least this time you swept some of the wards. They still had a few wards behind you. That's actually where their vision came from, not in front of you, but they actually had behind the pit. There's a few wards catching you off guard.
Okay.
But other than that, it was closed out pretty decently. You guys should be definitely proud of the progress you're making.
Yeah, and Kikis as the Nidalee jungle master. We've heard the Fisio talk about it, the Medjais, and why should you get it, why not? Jankos always does it as well. You give us the final word. Should we always build it?
No, not always. I just expected that the game will go well at that point when I bought it. I just had exact gold for it, and the game was going well, so I just went with it, but usually I prefer Morelos before that.
All right. We know now what we have to do in every given situation. No, we're still going to mess up. Final question for you guys. You guys are a new team in the LCS. How has it been adjusting to the LCS lifestyle, you know, the hard scrimming practice, and then coming in here and playing those two very hyped games every week, Power?
I think it's we can improve better now since we're in the gaming house. Just because after the game we can speak to each other like personally, and we can speak about the mistakes we made or even the good things we made. So what we should do in the next game as well. So I like it, and yeah, hopefully we have success. Having
fun and having success in this one, certainly. Congratulations, guys. Thank you very much. Coming up next is our final match of the day between the Copenhagen Wolves and SK Gaming. Can SK keep their undefeated streak alive? Stick around and find out in just 3.5.
This is going to be a crazy one. The Unicorns of Love taking on Team ROCCAT. They scatter away from Kikis, but they found Nukeduck around the side, and Power of Evil will be able to pick another. Kikis not quite going down. Yes!
Can we flash first?
Can you give him Black Can you give him
It's not touchy, it's not touchy, it's not touchy.
Cyan.
Game flash? I got him.
Back away. There we go, flashing forward. Vincent Shachi is going to manage to grab himself a Woolite kill. They're chasing GG as the Unicorns of Love put another W on the board.